I understand the point of harems.
何それ今まで散々好き
They're either power fantasies, an excuse to create a roster of pretty girls, or just something to insert yourself so you can mindlessly giggle and enjoy. Not everything has to be some thought-provoking, eye-opening masterpiece to be considered good or entertaining. I watch a lot of these said endorphin-squeezing shows and my mental regressing thinker you call a brain eats these up like dessert. And I think that's absolutely fine. Simply taking in pleasure with what you see without having to count for nuances in every single frame or spoken dialogue is sometimes all I need to consider something a masterpiece. Okay, not masterpiece, but you get. However, there's just something I wish more harems would implement more in these hellholes of a trap they call a story. At least in more modern harems coming out now or maybe in the future. And that's for a main character with a personality? Immediately contradicting my first statement is a little crazy, but I swear, I will find these idiotic harems more appealing or even give me a better incentive to watch if it just had an actual protagonist! And I'm not even asking for some fleshed out, planned from the beginning, foreshadowing from the first episode character. No. I'm just asking for the smallest amount of characterization, and I swear, I will binge whatever it throws at me until I reach the last episode. For some that might not get what I'm complaining about, standard harems generally have a blank slate for a male protagonist. Kinda like a bowl of white rice, pretty standard, basic, and unremarkable. And this is intentional. It set up so the girls in a harem like the view we're watching. Like, literally check your room right now for anything, and whatever you see probably has more personality than a harem protagonist. It's also not just a harem thing. The Kirito curse has been plaguing the realm of anime since 1963. I'm just kidding, but it's been there for a pretty long time now. At this point, I just accept that it's mostly gonna turn out like that. How all of these girls, some well written mind you, just fall for some guy. Which is exactly why I wish this guy was just something, literally anything. Coming off a recent rewatch of Quintessential Quintuplets sparked this wishful thinking of mine. How with just a little seasoning, it suddenly becomes so much better. Uesugi Futaro is, I think, a good example who doesn't have a super fleshed out personality, but has enough character to reel me in the story more, while also finding their interactions with the quintuplets far more interesting. Yes, I know that the Big Five is definitely more captivating than him, but Uesugi feeling like a separate entity rather than some fuck bitch blank face is really refreshing after scouring through the sea of what feels like an oversaturated genre. Of course, there are multitudes, billions of other elements that can elevate a harem through its story, world building, premise, or whatever, right? You can probably name one element and that can make a harem leagues better than what it already is. But having this one factor, having this guy, can keep me watching until it's over. As this idea kept brewing in my head, the itch for finding a good harem just wouldn't go away for some reason. So much of my time was spent on looking for the next anime to watch rather than actually sitting down and watching something. I will not rest until I find an interesting ensemble cast of girls and a boy with a bar lower than it can ever possibly go. Oh yeah, it's this by the way, but first a few honorable mentions.
本当にこのゲームでいいのか?
だってほら、泉ちゃんものすごい
Psychonaut is actually really similar to what I'll talk about in a bit. The only reason why this isn't my main example is because I've only started rewatching it as I was already making the video. But I am a huge Megumi fan. Like, a huge Megumi fan.
今は勘弁してよ
Oh my god.
Oresuki is a parody of its own genre. It's funny too, I think. I don't know, it's been a while since I watched this.
だから二股したい!
I actually don't like Girlfriend all that much, but I think it pretty much fits the criteria of what I'm talking about, so I'll just include it here.
ぬくみずくんそういうところじゃないかな友達がいないの
Yes, I'm calling this a harem just to put this as an excuse, because this show is amazing. From its environmental world building to its wonderful cast, like, my vocabulary is not enough to describe how beautiful Maken really is, so please just watch it.
心の隙間?
Okay, this one's kinda cheating because the world God only knows approaches harems differently. You can even argue it's not one at all. But please, let's not do that. It's a parody, but despite that, it has a really good cast. One I find to be way more intriguing than I initially thought. The show curates its cast off archetypes we're already familiar with and grounds them, deconstructing their character in a way that ties into their behaviors and personality. It's such a fun way to explore their fictional psyche, and the main character treats it like some sort of visual novel, acting like he already knows this quote-unquote type of person and does his best to quote-unquote clear them. Yes, well at the end of the day, there's still said archetype. It does give proper reason reason for its existence, helping me empathize about who they are and how their personality fits within the story and their respective arcs. Oh yeah, this video is about the main protagonist, so what makes this guy passable? I don't really. One very glaring thing about him that the show really emphasizes is how much of a loser he is. His lifestyle and mantra is continuously belittled. Almost everyone in the show, including her mom, questions or makes fun of him. In today's terms, he's low-key, mid-key, high-key an incel, which makes it all the more interesting when he's forced to interact with the girls in the show. At first, he sees them as this obstacle, something to clear like some sort of game, but as it goes on, the more he realizes that, oh, they're just like me. They're just people. He still goes with his beliefs until the very end, but there's this sort of empathy he encompasses throughout the show. And if we remove the part where he literally has to do this or else he dies, it helps me invest my feelings for him more. Instead of wanting to see him continue to make a fool of himself, suddenly I find myself rooting for him. It's a little silly because of course I'd root for him when it involves a really interesting set of girls the show provides, but for him it technically doesn't amount to anything. No gratitude, no recognition, nothing. He won't be remembered by any of the girls he quote-unquote clears, they'll just know he exists. And yet, he, at least in the way he knows how to, goes this really weird mile to try and save these girls the best he can. There's just a lot more to discuss if all characters involved had this sense of belonging in their respective worlds, rather than trophies you obtain as you go through each episode. Again, I'm not saying that everything needs to be like this, but it would just be nice if more harems had an approach that would contextualize the setting and its characters more. There's probably a few harems that slipped under my radar, so if you have one in mind, then let me know.